I know I'm not the first person to say this out loud because I think this is probably one of the most common human experiences that I think everyone has experienced. But when I was younger, I felt really unattractive and really awkward and weird, which I know, like, in that phase of life, I can't speak for everyone, but I know it's like not the most uncommon thing to feel really awkward and unattractive and like an outcast and uncomfortable. But when I was younger, I really did feel like I didn't fit in because I wasn't this attractive person. I wasn't deemed as a pretty girl in primary school, or at least not to my knowledge. And I felt like, really unattractive. And I felt like a lot of other girls my age when I was younger, were so pretty. And I didn't see that in myself. I really didn't feel like that was who I was. Until one day, I didn't feel that way anymore. Like a couple of years passed and suddenly I was 15 and suddenly I hit puberty and suddenly people started to treat me a bit differently. And I didn't feel like this unattractive person anymore. Well, people didn't treat me like this unattractive person anymore. I got treated like the people that I admired when I was younger. And it really fucking wigged me out. It really fucking felt strange because everyone, I think, goes through a glow up when they're younger. When you start getting a bit older and, settling into your looks and kind of fitting into your face in a weird way and hitting puberty and I guess also just building a bit more confidence in yourself as you grow older, naturally we all start to look better. But when you feel like you have a really significant change in the way people treat you, it really fucking wigs you out. And I feel like, honestly, it's built a lot of trust issues for me. Anyways, when that happened, when I felt like I guess like glowed up, is that the term? I don't know. When I felt like that happened, I soaked that shit up. It felt so good to finally feel like I was someone who was considered attractive, to have people that actually wanted to date me or to go out with me or whether they had pure intentions or not, I was still getting attention. It felt amazing, and I don't blame 14, 15, 16-year-old me for feeling that way, because that is something that I always wanted to feel. I never felt like I had that when I was younger. And so when that happened, as shallow as it sounded, I soaked that shit up. But I think, without realizing it, I think in some funky, weird way, I started to actually tie my worth to the way other people viewed me, or how attractive I felt, or how attractive I was considered to others. I think, in the long run, without even realizing it, because I tied my worth to whether people viewed me as attractive or not, to an extent, it actually ended up, leading me into unhealthy relationships with my body, with food, and with boys my age, because, I felt like I was only attracting people who were with me because I looked a certain way, or for my body, or because they were only there for one thing. Because deep down, that's where I felt my value lied. And that's what I felt that the only thing I had to offer, the only way I felt included and the only way I got attention from people was if I offered myself in a certain way. And I think I did do some hard rewiring to me where I ended up, internalizing it and only attracting certain types of people into my life who I only felt like were there for one reason. So as much as that attention initially felt amazing, it was all these endorphins and this high of this attention that I once craved on since I was little is now happening. But now in the long run, I'm now having to, rebuild my self-esteem, but based on something that has nothing to do with the way I look. Because I've learnt that the way that we look is the most boring, surface level, fleeting, not lasting thing about us, because there's so much more to us and there's so much more that we bring to the table. So why should we depend on how other people view us or how attractive we feel? Why should we depend on that to feel good about ourselves when it is the most shallow and boring thing about us? Hello everyone, my name is Emerson and welcome to Mental Banter. Today I'm going to be talking about how the way we look is the least interesting thing about us, and how we shouldn't tie our worth to how other people view us and to how attractive we feel. Because It is the most uninteresting thing about us. People might disagree with me, but I actually feel like we only have about 20-25% of control over the way we look. There's obviously, looking after yourself, taking yourself to the gym, eating well, skincare, obviously paying for hair, makeup. If you have money, I mean, paying for body transformations and everything. We do have control over it to an extent, but I think at the end of the day, sometimes it's just luck and genetics. Two people can do the exact same gym workout and look entirely different because it's all based on our body chemistry and our genetics, really. I really don't think we have that much control over how we look. So you didn't earn your looks, so why base your worth on it when you can't even really take that much credit for it? Like when someone calls us attractive, it's nice, it's a compliment, and obviously soak it up, take it in. I think it's a lovely thing to be called attractive. But I would also think, how can I take credit for something? How can I thank someone when I actually don't have that much control over it? It's just my genetics, really. I can't really take that much credit for it because, I didn't really contribute to this. I did my makeup, I did my hair, I style myself in a certain way, of course. But, really, it's just how my body responds to certain things as well. And, I really don't feel like I can take that much credit for it. But when people compliment us on, our intelligence or our work ethic or our kindness or the way we make other people feel or our positivity or our studies or our jobs or our creativity, that's where I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I own that shit because I actually did that. I actually contributed to that. I made something happen. So I soaked that shit up. I saw this really interesting video. Again, I saw a TikTok, but it was this woman. Again, I can't credit her. I don't know her name. I can't find it. But she made this really interesting point that I find it interesting. I don't know if I completely agree with a certain level of it to an extent. But I find it really interesting, and it's kind of a refreshing perspective in a sense. She was making a point about how every single time that, we talk down on ourselves physically, about how we might not be pretty enough or attractive enough, everyone's initial instinct is to be like, no, you're beautiful and you're perfect, in your own way. Everyone's beautiful. We're all beautiful. But she kind of made a point that, it's actually okay to not be beautiful. And it made me really think, I was like, it's actually okay to not be beautiful. The thing is, I say that I don't fully agree with it because I think, for me personally, I think for our own self-esteem and just our own self-worth, I think it's important to feel confident in yourself and the way that you look. That's why I'm like, I think it is important to, I guess, try and affirm to ourselves that we are beautiful, But then also this perspective was so interesting because it's like, you know what, why do we put so much emphasis on physical looks? Like, why do it actually doesn't matter too much. And it really takes the power away of beauty standards and feeling beautiful and being beautiful. It takes it off its pedestal. But, I think it's just about saying it's okay to not meet certain beauty standards. Because I feel like growing up, we're all kind of wired into feeling like we should want to feel beautiful, hence why the beauty industry and everything around that is so huge because everyone wants to feel beautiful and to be beautiful and to look a certain way and meet certain beauty standards. I think not everyone, but as a society, it's kind of imposed on us to want to look a certain way. But I think saying, oh, fuck that, I don't have to be beautiful, really takes it off its pedestal, And, but just being content with being like, you know what? My beauty isn't all I have to offer because I have so much more to offer than just that.
Seems really harsh, but the truth is that I don't think the solution to us as women being overly preoccupied with whether or not we're attractive is to constantly be reassuring ourselves and each other that we are attractive. It's to stop caring about whether or not we're attractive.
I don't know, I just find it really interesting because I just think it, it really just takes the pressure off us needing or wanting to feel beautiful or to be beautiful when it actually doesn't matter that much. when you care too much about how other people perceive you or what they think about you, you're ultimately giving them the power over how you feel about yourself. So if you were like me, for instance, and she still lives within me, whether I realize it or not, if you rely on how other people perceive you to feel good about yourself, then you're giving other people power over how you feel about yourself. Does that make sense? So like, for instance, like younger me, depending on other people finding me attractive to feel good about myself, I'm giving them the power. So the worst thing happening to me when someone found me unattractive and vocalized it or made fun of me or thought I was unattractive, it made me upset and it fucking hurt me. And of course, like, when people like say upsetting things about us, of course it's going to make us upset. But, like, as I've kind of, I guess, tried to work on being more secure in myself, I feel like it's taken away that power. So if someone, God forbid, says something nasty about the way I look, yada, 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 I'm like, okay. If you take that power away and, take a step back and release that pressure to try and make people think a certain thing about you, it takes away that power that they have over you. Another point I want to make also is that attraction is so subjective, and how people view you has kind of nothing to do with you as well, just in general. Like whether someone's attracted to you or not, or whether people like you or not, it has so much to do with how that person, and pretty much nothing to do with you in most cases. Like, for instance, there are people out there, I don't know who, but there are people out there who don't find Megan Fox attractive. Whereas I think that's crazy because I think she is one of the most beautiful and sexy women in the world. Proving my point, attraction is so subjective. Why would you base your worth on something that everyone can have a different opinion on? Have your own opinion about it. Think you're beautiful. Fuck it. Define beauty for you as well. And know that there's so much more to you than that as well. Like, you can be gorgeous and that can be the most boring thing about you. And you know what? Like, I'm not going to play naive and play silly here either. I'm aware that I meet certain beauty standards of today's society. I might sound like a bit of a hypocrite or that I'm contradicting myself because I'm also somebody, who likes to take photos of themselves, who posts photos. And you know what? I love getting a good photo of myself. I love dressing up. I love feeling sexy. I love feeling beautiful. And it's fun for me. I enjoy it. But I think just over the years, I've really tried to, teach myself that there's so much more to me and I have so much more to offer than that, and that my beauty and the way I look is so fucking boring in comparison to who I actually am as a person. I think that's also changed my lens on other people as well. So I can see people for, their beauty. I can see people for their beauty as well. I love a good looking person just as much as, old mate next door. I love a good looking person, but it's also kind of changed my lens on people, and I see people for who they are as well. People with pretty faces and ugly hearts, you can see it, but you also see genuine people behind what they wear and how they look. And I feel like it's, led me to attracting better people into my life, to having better relationships. And I'm seeing people for more than what I see physically. And people are seeing me for as much as I don't have control over it. I believe that the right people for me will see me beyond this. And they're the people that matter. Summary of this video is that you can be absolutely beautiful, drop dead gorgeous, and it is so boring. And it is the most boring thing about you because we have so much more to offer as people. And at the end of the day, our physical body is just the body that we're given and the role we kind of play in this world. But how can you take credit for something that you really don't have much control over? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more. And yeah, love you guys. Bye-bye.